February 1945. American troops expected a quick, joyful liberation. Instead, they walked straight into a trap built from stone and pure desperation. Manila would become one of the deadliest urban battles of the entire Second World War. Deadlier, block for block, than Stalingrad. Yet almost nobody today has ever even heard its name. By the time the guns finally fell silent, this city would look nothing like it once did. This map isn't just old paper, it's the last plan several thousand men ever followed before dying. Red circles show Japanese kill zones, blue arrows show American divisions walking straight toward them. The soldiers who drew this had no idea their enemy had already been ordered to fight to the death and to take the city's own people down with them. What happened next would shock even hardened combat veterans watching. They called it the Pearl of the Orient, wide Spanish boulevards, grand ancient churches, a river winding gently through the city's beating heart. This photo shows what was left standing, barely. What you're looking at isn't decay from time. It's the opening scene of a month-long massacre, and the people who once walked these streets had absolutely no idea what was coming for their beautiful ancient home and family. The landing craft hit the beach at dawn, engines roaring, ramps slamming down hard into the surf. These men genuinely believed they were minutes from a hero's welcome home. What they didn't know, the Japanese commander defending Manila had received no order to retreat, and no intention whatsoever of surrendering. Every step forward from this beach would be paid for in American and Filipino blood alike, without mercy. Behind the front lines, soldiers rigged camouflage nets and waited for orders that badly underestimated everything still ahead of them. Command believed Manila would fall within days. They were catastrophically wrong. Somewhere in the ruins ahead, Japanese naval troops were already turning basements into bunkers and rooftops into snipers' nests, preparing a fight nobody in this photo could have imagined surviving at all. This gateway once welcomed carriages into the old city under Spanish colonial rule. Now a burned tank sits exactly where they used to pass, guns silent, crew unknown, fate unrecorded forever. Every ruin like this hides a story nobody ever wrote down, a family, a soldier, a final moment lost completely to history. Manila doesn't just show you the war. It shows you what total war does to a place that once had a name. Standard text. Street by street, American troops crept slowly through mountains of debris that used to be someone's home and someone's life. Snipers waited patiently in bell towers. Grenades waited silently in doorways. The enemy wasn't retreating. They were dying in place on purpose, taking as many Americans and Filipinos with them as possible. Nobody advancing through this rubble knew if the next building would be their very last. Life magazine ran this exact photo and stopped American readers cold over their morning coffee back home. Soldiers, guns raised, escorting terrified survivors out of smoking wreckage. This wasn't a war against an army anymore. It was a war happening on top of civilians who had absolutely nowhere left to run. What the world saw in this single frame changed how Americans understood the entire Pacific War forever, permanently. Standard text. Deeper into the walled city, soldiers dragged heavy equipment past debris that used to be family homes and busy market stalls full of life. Ahead of them, Intramuros, Manila's 400-year-old fortress district. Command believed it would fall quickly and easily. Instead, it became the single deadliest square mile any American soldier would fight through in the entire war. And almost nobody remembers why today. Wave after wave, more men crossed the water, feeding into a fight that was consuming soldiers faster than headquarters could ever replace them. What began as a rescue mission had quietly become something else entirely. A month-long meat grinder with no clear finish line in sight. And commanders back in Washington were only just beginning to understand the true scale of what their men had walked straight into it. MacArthur had sworn, "I shall return," and he did. Exactly as promised to a grateful nation. But liberation wasn't clean or simple at all. Here, American forces detain a suspected collaborator. One face among thousands caught in an impossible position. help the occupiers and betray your neighbors, or refuse and risk absolutely everything. Freedom, it turns out, came bundled with questions nobody in Manila could easily answer. This building once represented American and Spanish colonial power stretching back generations across the islands. By March 1945, it was a hollow, smoking husk of its former self. Historians would later compare Manila's total destruction to Warsaw, one of the most devastated cities of the entire war. So why has almost nobody outside serious military history circles ever heard this comparison or this city's name at all? No sleep, no real shelter, just a few stolen minutes of rest between brutal assaults. These men weren't storming an open beach under a blue sky. They were clearing buildings, one room at a time, never knowing what waited behind the next closed door. This is the side of war rarely shown on screen, not the charge, but the crouch, the silence, the endless waiting for something that might never let you go home again. Inside a captured building, still warm from the fighting, officers marked maps by hand, every street taken, every pocket of resistance still stubbornly holding out. There was no satellite view, no drone hovering overhead watching, just paper, pencils, and men trying to outthink an enemy who had already decided not to survive this battle. Every single mark on this map cost lives nobody back home would ever know by name. By late February, entire blocks near the Pasig River had become nothing but skeletons of ash and shattered stone. Tanks rolled past homes whose owners were dead, gone, or hiding beneath the very rubble they used to call safe. This wasn't collateral damage on the distant edge of a battle. This was the battle itself, fought inside people's kitchens, their bedrooms, their churches, one collapsing wall at a time, relentlessly. Not every photo from Manila shows pure destruction and despair. Here, families rest beneath the shade of trees, a rare, fragile pause in a nightmare that refused to end for anyone nearby. But peace here was only an illusion. Artillery didn't care about gardens or children playing. Shells fell without warning, and no patch of green in this entire city was ever truly safe from what was happening just streets away. As American troops closed in tighter on Intramuros, resistance stopped feeling like a battle and started feeling like something else entirely, a massacre in slow, agonizing motion. Admiral Uwabuchi's men had orders that left no room for surrender, only total destruction, and certain death for everyone still trapped behind those 400-year-old Spanish walls. Nobody inside would leave unchanged if they left at all. The Pasig River once carried trade, laughter, and everyday life through Manila's beating heart. By March, its banks were lined with government buildings gutted by fire, still smoking, still burning in places. This river became an active front line, crossed under direct fire by men who knew that reaching the other side meant straight into the deadliest fighting the entire Pacific War had yet produced anywhere. This was the final act, the full assault on Intramuros itself, the ancient walled heart of the city. American troops crossed open ground under withering fire to storm walls. Built centuries earlier by Spanish colonizers, walls never designed to survive artillery, tanks, or 20th century warfare of any kind. What happened inside those ancient stones over the following days would haunt survivors on both sides forever. When the smoke finally cleared in March 1945, Manila lay in ruins almost too complete to fully comprehend, one of the most devastated cities of the entire war. On either side, in any single theater, an estimated 100,000 civilians never made it out alive. Today, almost nobody remembers their names or this battle at all. These photographs are the closest thing left to remembering every one of them properly.